Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Thrive Like a Parent podcast. Today, I'm excited because I'm not alone, and I love when I'm not alone. And today, I'm speaking to Kelli Bullard, who I'm actually really excited to get to know better. We are part of a squad that no one ever wants to be a part of, which is widowhood. And Kelli, I think the coolest part about getting to know you and having you on is as I looked at your page, you're very approachable and very um, loving and lots of smiles, right? And it's very interesting. We were just talking about your book, which is Behind My Smile, right? Um, but I would love for you to say hello and introduce yourself and tell everyone kind of who you are. And if you'd like to kind of jump and dive right into your story, I'd love for everyone to kind of hear who you are.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here today and to talk with you. I adore you.
Absolutely.
Um, so I am Kelli Bullard. I'm 29 years old, and I was an elementary school teacher for like 7 years out of college. And then life took some unexpected turns, and I wrote a book and quit my job. Um, I have two kids. They're about 4.5 and 2.5 right now. But the whole reason I wrote a book and quit my job was because on June 10th of 2021, I lost my husband in a car accident. So it was just a normal day. It was just a Thursday. Our daughter was 2 at the time, and our son was like 6.5 weeks old. And so I was like on maternity leave. It was summer anyways for school, but I was just home with crew all day, and Hallie was at daycare, so I could try to adjust with, life with another one. And um, my husband Alex was a cattle farmer, and he like ran his family cattle business, and that farm was about 7 miles from our house. And every night he would go out to check on the cows who were calving just to make sure like they were okay, they didn't need help, the baby was all right, all of that. Um, and so he got home that night. We had some pizza for dinner. Like it was a really, really good night. Kids were all in a good mood. Alex and I cleaned up the living room. He put Hallie to bed, and he's like, "All right, I'm going to go check the cows. I'll be right back. I love you." And I had crew in my chest in the baby carrier because that was his witching hour. So he was just screaming. And I, like, kind of annoyed, said, "I love you" back because all I could hear was screaming in my ear. And he left, and he never came home. And um, while he was gone checking the cows, I sat down, got Crew to sleep. He was still in the carrier on my chest. He was all night long. I was reading a book, and I heard a loud, high pitched scream. And I was like, that is so weird. Was that Hallie? So I went and checked on Hallie, and she was still sleeping. And then I remember kind of being like a little freaked out, like, so I wanted to be like, okay, Alex, like, come home. Where are you? And then it was around 9, and I started cleaning up from dinner because I was like, okay, he still isn't back yet. Like, I'll just clean up and then head to bed. And my neighbor came in my house, and she had just this look on her face that you knew immediately something was wrong. And she said, "Kelli, where's Alex?" And I said, "He's checking the cows." She said, "What is he driving?" And I said, "The truck." And she took a deep breath and said, "Kelli, there's been a really bad accident. All we know is that it's a Bullard." And I remember like wanting to laugh because Alex was the best driver. He drove loaded trailers with cattle through the mountains across the country to shows everywhere. Like driving was just his thing. He was good at it. I never worried about that. And I was like, okay. So I called Alex, and of course he didn't answer. And then I looked up his location, which was right where she said the accident was, which just so happened to be like a 1/4 mile from our house. I am looking at it right now, like not far at all, 30 seconds from home. Um, and so I ran out the door with Crew on my chest and asked her to stay with Hallie because she was asleep, and asked her husband to take me up to the scene, and he did. Um, and I just, like, when I got there, I just remember staring at his truck, and I was storming toward it because it was unrecognizable, completely totaled, and he wasn't in it. And I was so confused. Like,
Mhm.
where is he? Why isn't the ambulance moving? I didn't hear a helicopter. I heard no sirens. Like, what is going on? And no one would tell me anything. They just kept being like, you need to stay back. You need to stay back. Um, and then after a while, I kind of lost it and was like, I need to know if my husband has a fighting chance or not. I have two little kids. Like, figure out someone who knows what's going on and tell me now. And eventually, an EMT walked up and said, we did everything we could. Um, she kept talking. I don't know what she said. I walked away and like just went and stared back at the truck because I'm like, what happened? Like, what, where did this go wrong? How did this happen? And that's something I still don't really have answers to this day.
Mhm.
I have a guess. It looks like an overcorrection gone wrong. That's all I know. He wasn't on his phone. He wasn't texting her on the phone because I found his phone and obviously looked at what he was on, and he turned a podcast on. That was the last thing he did. Um, so yeah, then life became really hard, really hard.
Yeah.
I didn't want to know what life would be like without him.
Mhm.
Um, and our daughter, was obsessed with him, wrapped around his finger. And Crew was a very colicky baby, who would only let me hold him. Like, even if Alex
Mhm.
held him, he still screamed his head off. But as soon as I grabbed him, he'd stop screaming. Um, so then life as I knew it was completely shattered, turned upside down. And I had to figure out who I was now. Because since I had met Alex, he's the only guy I've ever dated. Since I had met him, I relied on him for everything, like figuring out where we were going to live, and um, just who I was so much a part of who he was and because of him. So
Mhm.
now without him, it
Mhm.
was like, who are you, Kelli? So I taught for the next 2 years after the accident. Um, and my heart wasn't in it anymore. I
Mhm.
felt like my purpose in life had changed. Um, and that if this was my story, I was determined to use it to help other people. And I couldn't really help widows while teaching first grade. So while I loved my job and my boss and coworkers, I decided to quit, and I felt just like a big pull on my heart to write a book, and I kind of just went for it, and I and I did that, and I feel like my time now. Um, I'm just so much more intentional with my kids, and I don't come home completely exhausted, and I'm not taking things out on them as much anymore. And that comes with maturing in my grief as well. But it just
Mhm.
felt like leaving teaching was a big load being lifted off my shoulders so that I could figure out who I was and how to help my kids and myself healing in this grief journey.
And thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
Um, as well as, of course, I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm so sorry for the way that happened. It's pretty. It gave me chills when you said you can basically see right out your window.
Hmm.
Where it was, as I see you literally like looking up.
Yeah.
And I know the same, of course, pain of getting. For me, it was getting the call, and Jonathan passed in April of 2021. So our journeys and timeline of how long we've both been widows is pretty similar.
Hmm.
And I would love to hear a little bit about how your time was the first 2 years while you did continue working a full time job. I think for me, I had already started this business and had loved it and just continued on. But knowing that Jonathan and I were it, knowing that I may be in the position that I'm in, basically, I was also intentional. I had a brick and mortar clinic prior to this, and I was intentional with, I knew that possibly one day the boys would need me and I'd need to have my own schedule and be flexible. And having a family of your own, as well as taking care of and nurturing and supporting and educating, a classroom of children, and then going home, like that's a lot. So I would love to hear how that time was for you and how you basically made it through that time.
Yeah, it was a lot. I at first after the accident, I wasn't sure I wanted to go back to teaching right away. I was like, maybe I just take a year off, get my feet
Yeah.
underneath me, and then go back. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, I don't think it would be good for me to sit at home all day with nothing to do. Like, I just feel like I would be wallowing in my grief and going further and further down a rabbit hole if I did that.
Hmm.
So I wasn't trying to like stay busy to ignore it, but I just knew for me to heal, I needed a routine and a schedule. And if I didn't have a job, I wouldn't have that. Um,
Yep.
so the first year, I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard.
Yeah.
Um, and I probably, not probably, I'm certain I was not the best teacher. Um,
Mm.
I probably could have done a lot of things differently, but like after going through that trauma, I just felt so much more like, what is the point? After like so
Mm.
soon after, I'm like, man, what is the point? So I really just tried like nurturing those kids that were harder to love instead of curriculum pushing.
I love that. You did what you
So
had the capacity for, but in a
yeah,
beautiful way. Hmm.
yeah, and it was different for sure. It wasn't, the way it was the previous year, but it was just what I could do. And my aide was so incredible.
Mm.
She basically was a co-teacher with me, and like that first year, I've never gotten sick so many times in my life after
Wow.
the accident. Um,
Mm.
there were days I would be throwing up. There were days I couldn't even explain it. It felt like a heavy weight on my chest, and like breathing hurt. Um,
Yeah.
and so I missed a lot of school. And then it was really hard trying to figure out childcare when the kids were sick, because that was Alex's thing. Being a cattle farmer,
Mhm.
he had a more flexible schedule to grab the kids. And I hated missing. And I think any teacher would say this, making sub plans and missing is harder than just going if you're not feeling
Yep.
well.
Yep.
um, so, yeah, that first year, it took a lot out of me. And Crew, my youngest, was still nursing. He wasn't sleeping through the night. I was not ready to put him in his own room. I kept him in my room way longer than I should have. Um, but I wasn't ready to be alone yet. So I kept him in my
Absolutely.
room, and we kept each other up pretty much all night. I mean, I truly was getting maybe 2 hours of sleep a
Wow.
night. And then, yeah, wake up to get a workout in, then get Crew up,
Oh my
nurse him,
gosh.
shower. Yeah, and then it's like drop the kids off, go to work, pick the kids up, come home, play, make dinner, bath time, put them to bed, clean up, do laundry, like put dishes away. I was drained. And then at the end of almost every night for that first 6 months, I'd say I was just on the bathroom floor. Like
Mm.
after I finally got the kids down, cleaned up, did anything that needed to be done around the house, because I was just trying to keep some sort of routine, because that's what I used to do. And then I would crash on the bathroom floor and just lose it.
Mm.
So I think while I do think I needed consistency in a routine like that, I did need that. I just had like no part of me. I feel like I was trying to give so much more than I had.
Yeah. Look, I fully get that. It's so interesting. And I wonder where others' spots are in their home to go take their moment to grieve. Mine, no joke, was on the bathroom floor as well. Like I would just curl in a ball and like I've never squeezed my eyes so tight and just I've never cried like that in my life. I've never like and I remember as I would like be on the bathroom floor, I'd be like, I know that I need to be crying like this right now. I know that this is exactly what I need to be doing in order to heal or in order to be able to get up the next day or in order to be able to come out of my room and bathroom and be able to finish dinner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a curdling like it's so painful, and I talk a lot about like a backpack of weights on you. I also think that what keeps us going the first year is that fight or flight. We
Yeah.
move through such trauma that you said you got barely any sleep.
Hmm.
I didn't track my sleep back then, but I can tell you it wasn't what it is now. I think my body was so heightened, and even doing what I do and walking myself through trying to regulate and feeling like, okay, you're doing a really great job and the best you can. Year to year, I have felt such a complete difference and such a shift in terms of being able to slow my brain and my body down. I would love to know if you felt a little bit of that as your years have gone on with your own healing process.
Yes, absolutely. I think the first 6 months were the most brutal.
Yeah.
Of just like constant panic attacks,
Mm.
bathroom floor nights. And you say that in the bathroom floor, I think that was what I did to make myself fall asleep because my eyes were so heavy, I couldn't keep them open anymore. So it
Wow.
became like, you can fall asleep if this happens. And I would fall asleep until crew woke up and needed to eat. Like, it's not healthy, but that is what I did for the first 6 months for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and then I realized, I mean, I still go through phases of anger, but I
Yes.
realized this, nothing I say or do will ever bring Alex back for the
Right.
kids and I. So it's like, now, Kelly, it's time to do some work on yourself. And I needed to
Mhm.
figure out what was helpful for me to grieve because everyone's so different and what works for some people didn't work for me. So I was really trying to just learn about me and what I needed and what helped me. So I became pretty selfish in doing so. So I
Yes.
would try some things out. Some things didn't work, like writing really helped me. I don't know why I've
Mhm.
never enjoyed writing, but it was therapeutic to do it. Um, I loved like connecting with other widows because I thought I was the only one. And
Yeah.
there's this whole community. I'm like, I had no idea there were so many young widows. Like
Yeah.
it is heartbreaking, but at the same time I'm like thank you for showing me and you're a year ahead of me. Like you give me hope. Um
Yes.
and so I just noticed once I started working, like doing some extensive work on myself and like,
Mhm.
okay, a workout lets me know that I'm in control of my body where I feel no control in my life. Even if
Totally.
I cried through it, it was like, that helps you. Writing helped me. Um, if I could, like a bath. So dumb, but so relaxing.
So
um,
relaxing.
so it was just like finding out what worked for me, trial and error, really. And
Mhm.
I feel like after the six month to a year was still pretty foggy, not great. But then it started to lighten, and the
Mhm.
grief wasn't consuming me 24/7.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if triggers came up, I found myself like, breathe, Kelly.
Yep.
And like, because I wouldn't do that before. It would just hit, and I couldn't control it. And now it's like I can prepare myself, or if something comes up out of nowhere, I can talk to myself and be like,
Mhm.
you know, here's what you know, here's what we can do and control in this situation. Um, and I will say too, a lot of that I've learned in this whole journey is just like having grace with others as well. Because
Mhm.
sometimes things that people would say would set me off. And now it's like, I know they're coming from a good place. I know they're trying to help. I know
Mhm.
they don't understand this. And so it's just like bless and release, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I was I'm gonna try not to get choked up as I read this, but I definitely got choked up the other night when I read it on my own, and it's one of your posts. Your dog was in the car with your husband, and your
Yes,
dog did or did not make it?
he did not.
That's what I thought. The craziest thing is that you have this freaking picture with your husband on this couch looking at your dog, and it's like it's goosebump where it's like how did how did the universe know to get that picture? Like,
Mhm.
how? It's pretty unbelievable.
Those are
Um,
actually our newborn photos for crew, which happened like 2 weeks before the accident.
one is of your husband looking down at the dog, and the other one is your husband looking off and the dog looking at the camera. It's so unbelievable. But I really love what you said. If you're okay with it, I'd like to read some of it. You said, I've always wondered what was the right thing to say to people when they're suffering from a tragic loss. Now, being on the other side of it, here's what I've learned. Tell me you're broken with me. Tell me, whew, I am going to, but it's fine. Tell me you're on your knees. Tell me you don't know what to say. Tell me you're here for me. Tell me your favorite memory of him. Tell me how much he meant to you. Tell me what helped you navigate your loss, and always bring him back, right? But please do not tell me, this is the thing, like, please do not tell me you know what I'm going through.
Mhm.
And I clearly get choked up because I read some of your other stuff too, and it sounds like you lost friends and maybe even family along the way of your grief journey, and I did as well. And when I just wrote down, when you had to become selfish to figure out what process worked for you within your grief, I think that that is so important for any individual to hear, because we are all struck by tragedy in some way within our life. We will all be, if you haven't already. And at some point, we may need to support a neighbor, a friend, a loved one. And we have no earthly idea what that's going to look like for them or what they may need. And each individual person definitely needs something different. But I do have to say, there were people that said, I know, or like, I completely understand how you feel that way. And I'm like, no, but you don't. Like, it would, especially when the closest ones to me would say that, because they definitely didn't understand. But I think I'd love to hear from you. I have gotten this question so much, and I'll share my opinions after you, and I feel like I've shared mine before, but what do you think others can do in those times? Like, what, in your opinion, and I'm sure you've been asked that question before, what are the things that you say, hey, if someone passes, a lot of people reach out and they're like, what should I do? What would help?
Mhm. Yeah, and I love this question because before I lost Alex, I said all the things that I now say don't say. I said, "Tell me if
Yeah.
there's anything I can do. Like, if you
Oh,
need
yeah.
anything, let me know." And it's like, we have no idea what we need. Um,
No.
so I always just say, like, however you feel led, like, if you feel led to bring them a dinner, to like send gift cards, to babysit the kids, to get a house cleaning service, like, just do it. Do not ask that person, like,
hmm
if I say, if you ask them questions, ask specifics. Like, I
Mm.
am, I'm bringing you dinner. Do you want it Monday or Wednesday? That way,
Yeah.
like, you
Don't even
take,
ask me what I want to eat. Just like,
yes. Yep,
Yeah.
just bring it.
Mhm.
Whatever you want,
Mhm.
just bring it because I don't know what I want. Um, and something else that like close friends and family would do, it's like, okay, I'm coming over. Do you want me to do laundry? Do you want me to clean up? Do you want me to take the kids? Like I'm doing one, pick one. For me, the two biggest things in the stage I was at with little kids, I needed the most help with the kids because I was
Yeah.
never alone. And I
Yeah.
needed my house looked like a bomb went off at all times. I didn't care anymore. Um,
Mhm.
it actually was my mother-in-law who said, Kelly, please don't take offense to this, but can I get someone to clean your house? And I was like, yes, that would be
Like, yes, you
wonderful.
can. Does
Yeah.
that
And
mean I don't
so,
have to? Sure. Like, yeah.
yes. And I remember the first time I came home and like I walked in the door and it just like, you smell the cleaner and it's like, oh, and the vacuum lines look so nice. Like, it's people like serviced my car before winter or came and mowed the lawn for me because I don't know, that was Alex's job.
Right.
Um, just, I always say, just however you feel led to do it, but also a big thing that I think we often overlook is just being there, like physically there with them, even if it's in silence. Like,
Mm.
I know I did not want to leave the house at all. So my family and friends would literally like come and just be with me and the kids all day until it was time for bed because I didn't want to leave. I was not going grocery shopping. I did not want to go in public. So
Mhm.
people, I said I needed them to come to me. Um, and there were times where like I wanted to talk about it, and times I just wanted you to hold me while I cried and not say anything. And like I
Mhm.
think a lot of times we just want to fix people's problems and say,
Yeah.
everything happens for a reason. He's in a better place now. Just just hold me, just listen. And no
Mhm.
judgment. Don't fix this problem because you can't.
Yes.
Just be there.
Mhm. Yeah, I appreciate all of that. I think, especially the no judgment. Like, if you are choosing to be in my inner circle during that time, you're making a conscious decision that no matter what comes out of my mouth, no matter how crazy I look, no matter the tears, like no matter the anger, you will still love me and
Mhm.
know and trust that this is the grief process.
Yeah,
For
100%.
me, people did not understand that. And it was it was lonely. It was
Mhm.
very, very, very lonely. And I think when I get that question, people say, how can I help or what can I do? I think it's almost like be intrusive, but be intrusive in a very delegated or very organized fashion of like, look,
Yes.
I'm going to come over on Monday and Wednesdays. I'm going to do your laundry on Wednesdays. So just so you know, like it's happening, right? I'm going to bring you a meal every Monday or every Friday or like this is what's happening. And I'm going to come on Tuesdays and just sit. And if you don't want to talk to me, it is not your job to entertain me. I'm here in case you need something with the kids or if you want to take a rest or if you want to talk about it. I'm just a body. I will bring my own stuff. Like be as clear and concise as you can because very similar to you, I didn't want to have to entertain, but I also didn't want to go out anywhere, but I also felt extremely alone, but I also wanted people, but I also didn't want to have to like put on a show. It's like all these things wrapped up in one.
Yeah.
And I think that not just immediately those things need to be done. I actually feel like there's a few who reached out to me 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, even if it was just a text to just be like, hey, I just wanted you to know I'm thinking of you. Or, hey, just checking in to see how you've been feeling this week. And it was honestly a few people who I'm not very close with, but just certain people that still remain in my brain of the thought that I was still struggling never went away,
Mhm.
right? Like they still cared enough to even think about me or to even think, oh, she may be having a hard day. I wonder how she's doing. you know?
And you don't forget those people. Like, you
No.
remember who does that and who, like, even today's the 10th of the month. I had a good friend text me this morning just saying, "Hey, I love you. I'm thinking of you. I hope you get signs from Alex today." And it's like, it's almost, we're coming up on 3 years. It's over 2.5 years later, and it's the 10th, and she still remembers.
Yeah. That's pretty special. I mean, that's a special human, you know?
Yeah.
I definitely lost some, but I also was reminded of who is really in my corner and who my people are. And honestly, it's been the individuals that I grew up with, the individuals who, no joke, like the women who stood in my wedding were the ones, and not one of them lives in my city, but they were the ones that were my everything, and checking in, and it just shows like time with certain friends is just so beautiful. I would love if you're willing to talk a little bit about where you're at now.
Yeah.
And I know there's some very exciting news.
Yes. So just recently, Connor and I got engaged.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably started dating um, like 7 months after the accident.
Wow.
And I actually met Alex and Connor on the same day. I met Alex at Connor's house in college
What?
for a pregame. Um, and then the other thing I always share is that the last friend Alex saw was Connor. So I've
Wow.
always known Connor. We've obviously dated other people and whatnot. And then after the accident, Alex, had lost Alex and then was going through a breakup kind of around the same time. Um, but Alex's friends would reach out and come over for dinner, and we're all sweet. But with Connor, it didn't, it never felt like forced.
Mm,
So we just kind of naturally grew from check-in texts to talking all day and then to dating. And it's scary. It's unbelievably scary to date
right?
after losing a spouse. I mean, you get that. But
Mhm.
and judgment from others too.
Mm.
Um but there were just so many things that were telling me, like, this is right. Like, and he is incredible with the kids. They adore him, and his family is incredible. And actually, his little sister was my little in our sorority in college. So, like, I've, like, him and his family I've known for a while, but like I never like knew him beyond just like he would be out when we were out. Um,
Yeah.
and last month he proposed, and we are going to get married. We think, we don't have anything set, but we're looking at like August of this year.
That's so wonderful. It's so interesting. You said you started dating around 6-ish months. I started dating Carter, who I have not told anyone about until now.
Yeah, I just
Um,
like saw
at-
him.
yes, at about 9 months. And the world of dating after losing a spouse it's not easy. Like
Mhm,
and it requires a huge heart of a human,
mhm.
because there will, like, Jonathan will always still have a presence in some form of my life. He is in sometimes our everyday conversation.
Yeah.
And I think, especially for how vocal you are on social media, and even how vocal Julia Spilled Milk, how
Mhm.
vocal she is. And, I waited until my eldest knew what happened to kind of share the story with everyone of like exactly how Jonathan passed. That was just something I felt respect for Charlie for. But sharing that, and also sharing that we still have struggles, but yet there's someone else by our side, like, wait a second, like, I'm here. It's it's an incredible thing to navigate, but also an incredible thing to witness another human love that much that they honor, they honor all that you've been through, and they honor your children, and they honor your grief, and they hold space for it and care for you. And it's it of course happens over and over again. So many either remarry or find a partnership,
Mhm.
but it speaks volumes of the individuals that of course we choose, but it's not an easy it's not an easy thing to date. You have to have such like strong communication skills and
Yes.
work at them, right? I'd love for you to, as you're like laughing, giggling, I'd love for you to share a little about how it's been for you to navigate all of that.
Yeah. So I don't know if everyone's like this or it's just me, but there are times like when grief hits, there are times like I want to be alone. There's times I want you to like just sit with me and not talk about it. There are times I want to talk about it. Um, so honestly, I just have to tell Connor, like, this is a leave me alone day. Like, don't
Yeah.
want, this is a I need you day. Like, and I need you to be serious.
Yeah.
This is like, I'm crying on your chest. I know you can feel the tears, but like, I don't need to talk about it. Um,
Yeah.
and I also think it's important too, like, especially with um, me and Connor, he knew Alex. I don't know if I
Mhm.
mentioned this, but Connor was in our wedding
Oh,
too.
wow.
So
Mhm.
they were good friends. And so Connor is, I'm an open book, clearly. Connor is not as much. And so I felt like I kind of had to, like, are you okay? Do you need anything? Like, um, and maybe that's guys are just different, but I felt like it's important to like making sure that there's that open line. Like, I'm here for you if you want to talk about
Yeah.
it, if you just want to sit, but like, we don't have to talk about it either. I'm just laughing because still we've been together for 2 years now. And it's like, yeah, there are some times where I can like feel it coming and I'm like, hey, I can feel it in my body. This is
Yeah.
coming on. Like if something like if I explode, we need to talk about it. Like if I get to
Yeah.
this point, it needs to be talked about. So just yeah, I mean, and it comes up unexpectedly and you never know when it's
Mhm.
going to happen.
When you least expect it,
Yes. I mean,
literally.
sometimes like we'll be watching a TV show and I just start crying because like something they say or something I see or they do. And it's like, oh man, like turn the TV off.
Yep.
Like I'm done.
I literally did that last night. I was listening to something, like a news reporting, and um, I didn't think it would trigger me. It was how someone passed and took their own life, and I was like, nope, 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 that's too much. And boom, and I just went back to cooking. But like for 5-10 minutes, I was like rocked for a little of like, whew,
Yeah.
I can't believe that still
Hmm.
gets me. You know what I mean? It's like so least expected moment, but yet you have to honor those moments because if you don't, then they just keep coming and coming and coming, right? I
Yeah.
find that
And
the more I honor them, the longer the length gets of, and it's been a slow burn of that, right? Like,
Mhm.
of course, I'm not crying and my eyes aren't squeezed tight as much. I don't, I can't tell you the last time I basically was on the bathroom floor. Like, that's a plus, right?
Right.
Hopefully, you're the
Yeah.
same.
Hmm.
Um, but there are still those moments, and it never will go away, but it gets lighter in a sense of you are able to support it and manage it more. And
Yeah.
it becomes your daily, life of this is just what I live with. This is who a part of me, not all of me, but a part of me.
Yeah, and I remember in the beginning, when people told me it gets lighter, it gets easier, like you learn how to navigate your life around it. It made me mad because I'm like, there's no way this is
Mm,
getting easier. I don't see a light at the end of this tunnel, but it comes. It really
it does.
does.
It absolutely comes. I always said year 1 is fight or flight, year 2 is exhaustion year and like tons of tears because your body is starting to settle and the dust is starting to settle in a really, really hard way because you don't have the fight or flight energy anymore. So the things that your brain wasn't ready to process in year 1 and was attempting to protect you and
Mm-hmm.
yourself from feeling, you begin to feel in year 2. And then year 3, I thought it was like Stella's going to get her groove back, honey. I was like, I'm in. Like, let's do this up. And I think that this year, this third year has been the year of seeing my spark, not living it every single day, but seeing it. And that just makes me even more excited for what will year 4 look like, Um, I'd love to hear if that's a little bit of how it's been for you in the different years or what has transpired, especially in this year as well. You're the year that you're in, your third year.
Yeah, I agree. Fight or flight for the first one, just complete foggy. I honestly blacked out most of that year because I was getting no sleep and my
Yeah.
kids depended on me for everything. So like they were the reason I continued
I
getting up
call it a
again.
tornado year. It was like, what the heck just happened?
Really?
Like,
Yeah. It was
mm-hmm,
it was crazy. And then
mm-hmm,
year 2, um, like I saw myself coming back, but
mm-hmm.
still having some like panic attacks, not as close together as they used to be, but there were times where like a smell or something would be
Yeah.
still so raw and so fresh. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and now, yeah, like I'm a little over 2.5 years in, and I feel like I'm finally finding
Right.
my way.
Right.
And strangers even have said like, "Kelly, your smile is coming back." And I was like,
Yeah.
"No, I am really good at fooling people." Like, and so when
Yeah.
people started
Yeah.
saying that,
Behind My Smile is the title
yes,
of your book, right?
hence the title. Um,
Yeah.
but that was like when it just kind of hit me, and I remember it like took my breath away, and I just started crying because I'm like, I'm still here. Like I didn't want to be. I'm still here. I'm still fighting, and like my kids are thriving. Like they have so many people who love them and so
Mm,
many people who would do anything for them. I've found so many people who do the same for me in this journey, and I'm like, I finally feel like I'm getting my footing back. Doesn't mean I don't
totally.
cry or have bad days or still miss my husband like crazy,
Absolutely.
but I'm still here, and I feel like, yeah, year 2.5 after this, like, I can take on the world again.
Yeah, I feel it more and more every day, and I love that we get to have this conversation as two individuals who really have a very similar timeline, if you will, of
Yeah.
very close in April and June. Tell everyone a little bit about your book and behind the smile, right? Like that, or behind my smile, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's a it's a beautiful title, and I know I've said it 15 times at this point, right? Clearly, I like the title, but
Thank you.
what is this book about? What does this book mean to you? And what can people find in this book?
So my book, I named it obviously Behind My Smile, Finding Hope When Life Leaves You Feeling Shattered. Um, and I just kind of wrote about my my experience, really from, I mean, started June 10th, the day of the accident, and I kind of just go through and how I've grown and what I've learned and realized. And I was gifted a lot of books after the accident, all surrounding the topic of grief. And there were many that I loved, and some I never really got that into and didn't finish. But Behind My Smile is kind of just what I wish I had. Um,
Oh,
I
wow. Yeah.
want I want people to know in their grief, their sorrow, their hurt, their hard, whatever that may be for them, that they're not alone. Like
No.
so often we think, it's just us who feels this way, and people will think I'm crazy. But the more I've been, vulnerable and shared my story, there's so many people who have been like, you put words to something that I experienced 2 decades ago, and I'm like just getting that now, and I'm like, that is amazing. Like,
Yes, it is.
yes, I wish we talked about this more because I was so blindsided by my grief. I had no clue what it was.
Right.
And the toll it takes on your entire body, every part of your being. Um,
Yes.
so I really wanted to educate about grief and what it is, and also just knowing like I kind of said, there is a light that comes if you just like hold on, like you can do this.
Yeah.
So
Your
yeah, I
smile,
really
it remains, like, you can put on a smile. I remember being at places in public, especially, again, that first year of, like, I'm here, but, like, my brain is, like, still at home. Like, so sad. There was nothing for me to talk about. I did not wanna talk about the mundane, kinda like you were saying, like, what is the point? Like, it just completely rocks your world. But that smile, I don't wanna call it fake it till you make it, but, the smile that you continue to put because we're so used to smiling, it does become reality. Like, it does become that natural smile, and it's so beautiful that even your close friends and family are like, "Your smile's back," because deep down they can tell. Like,
yeah,
deep down, they know, like, they know if our spark is back. They know if we're really thriving or if we're just surviving, you know?
right.
And I cannot wait to read your book. I'm definitely going to read it. And
Thank
I
you.
would love for you to tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Kelly Bullard. That's kind of where I am most of the time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Kelly, thank you so much for coming today and sharing your story. And it's natural for us. I think it's also healing for us to share our story
Mhm.
and let others hear it, and give it a voice and just help it be alive, if you will, to be able to continue processing and healing and all the things for us. But it doesn't come without its bravery and strength in order to share something that has happened so traumatically in your life. And I'm so thrilled that you have gotten the beautiful blessing of not one loves, but two loves in your life. And it does not ever replace, but it surely does allow you to find something new, right, within this journey of life and allow you to have not the family you had, but it is still a family, and that family is just as beautiful. I have a book and I read it to my kids all the time. A family is a family is a family, and it's a phenomenal book. But thank you so, so much for being here.
Yeah, thank
And
you so much for having me.
yeah, anytime. And until next time, XOXO, Dr. B.